We call to order a regularly scheduled meeting of the Woodland Park Planning Commission. It's Thursday, January 8th, 2026, 6:30 p.m. We have a call. Could we have the roll call?
Sure. Don DeZellem.
Present.
Ken Hartsfield.
Here.
Don Hoying.
Here.
Ken Kennedy.
Here.
Jared Newcomb.
Here.
And Chair Brown.
Here.
Also in attendance, you have myself, the Planning Director, Karen Schmink, CJ Gates, our Senior Planner. On Zoom, we have our City Attorney, Nina Williams. And then I believe one of the folks I'm seeing online is our intrepid minute taker. So please make sure your microphones are on and speak clearly into the microphone, because that really facilitates our ability to capture accurate minutes. Thank you.
Okay, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item is the approval of minutes. We have a spectacular set of minutes. Does anyone have any comments or corrections or a motion?
Yes, I'd move we approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously agreed. Next, we have election of officers, chair and vice chair. It'll be easiest to do it with a motion for chair and then a motion for vice chair, unless someone wishes to proceed otherwise.
Would you mind doing chair again?
I would not, but if so, I'd limit myself to 1 year in the spirit of the term limits and the other.
I would consider doing vice chair.
Okay, all right. Well, do you want to do a motion first for chair?
I move that Lee Brown serve again as chair for the next year.
I'll second.
Who seconded? Don. Thank you.
Okay, any discussion?
I think we can vote.
All right, can we call the vote?
Sure. Ken Hartsfield,
Yes.
Don Hoying,
Yes.
Ken Kennedy,
Yes.
Jared Newcomb,
Yes.
soon to be chair again,
I
Brown.
think I can abstain.
Okay. And then Don DeZellem.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries 5-0, 1 abstention.
Okay, and with regard to vice chair, do I have a motion?
I move to nominate Ken Kennedy for vice chair.
I'll second.
That was,
First by Jared Newcomb, second by Don DeZellem.
thank you.
You have any comment or discussion?
Guess was it? Just hope you're going to be able to attend more regularly now.
I should be able to.
Very good.
All right, can we call the vote?
Sure. Don Hoying,
Yes.
Ken Kennedy,
Yeah.
Jared Newcomb,
Yes.
Chair Brown,
Yes.
Don DeZellem,
Yes.
and Ken Hartsfield.
Yes. We don't have to change seats.
Motion's carried.
Was this already
It's
arranged?
preordained.
We just did it in the order you guys were saying.
Make it easy for everybody.
Okay. Next item is a public hearing. The council initiated zone changes allowed by city charter, section 15.7A zoning, to change the zoning from central business district to urban residential with the subject property legally described as Lot 1, Block 12, Foster's Addition, including the adjacent west one half of the vacated Scott Avenue, is described at reception number 483423, and the adjacent north one half of vacated alley described at reception number 590996 of Woodland Park, Teller County, also known as 309 Willow Street, Woodland Park, Colorado. Okay, to begin, we have the comments from the city attorney before the staff comments.
Well, and real quickly, Chair, I apologize, I didn't put that on our to-do list. If you could just review the order of tonight's proceedings, so everybody's aware of what we're doing. Or if you would like me to do that, I can.
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so you heard the chair just announced the public hearing item. The city attorney has got a few comments for us to kind of help frame what it is that we're reviewing. And then we have a staff report. After that, the staff will answer any questions the commission members may have. And then from there, the chair will open public comment. Since this does pertain to an individual property, we are affording that property owner the opportunity to speak first, and then any other public comment after that. Public comment is typically limited to about 5 minutes per person, but that's at the chair's discretion. After we've concluded public comment, the chair closes that portion of the meeting. The commission then has opportunity to discuss any aspects of this proposal. And then there is a motion and vote by the commission. So that's the proceedings for this evening. So with the chair's pleasure, I guess we can turn it over to the city attorney.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Nice seeing everyone. Sorry I'm not there in person. I hope it's not snowing too bad. So I just wanted to go over, this is like Karen said, a council initiated rezone application. So according to charter, section 15.7 zoning, and this is the charter of the Woodland Park, it's a zoning of property or change of zoning property can be initiated by the planning commission or by city council for any property. And with, you know, the application requirements, which we have, the staff has followed. So what I want to do is just to remind everyone that this is still a quasi-judicial matter, as Karen had said. So we still want to follow all our proper procedure that you always do such a good job of. This is concerning one individual property. So we want to apply the code factors to this particular situation. We want to keep all our conversation to that, and you know, within the confines of this hearing. So whatever is in your packet, whatever you see here today, all the testimony you receive, and of course applying it to the code. If you have any questions, I'll be here as needed. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for Nina now, or the staff presentation? Okay. You proceed, Karen, or CJ. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chair. As you stated, this is a item of council initiated zone change as allowed per the city charter of Woodland Park. The subject property is located on the southeast corner of Pikes Peak Avenue and Willow Street within the Foster's addition to Manitou Park final plat. This plat was approved in 1898 and was originally located within El Paso County. Currently existing on the property is a single-family home that was built in 1929 and a detached garage. The current owners of the subject property have owned the property since 2006. A little background for you guys here. So in 1996, the subject property was zoned urban residential. And prior to the UR designation, it was previously zoned R1. In July of 2025, the owners of the property requested to change their zoning designation from UR to Central Business District in order to operate a non-primary residence short-term rental. The Woodland Park City Council approved the rezoning request per ordinance 1503, and that was on October 2nd of 2025. The subject property is currently zoned CBD. At the December 4th, 2025 City Council meeting, Council voted to initiate a zone district change for the subject property to change the current zoning of Central Business District back to the original urban residential. As seen on the current slide, the subject property is currently zoned Central Business District. Adjacent properties to the north and east are also zoned CBD, and adjacent properties to the south and to the west are zoned urban residential. Here on this slide is a comparison of the two zone districts located within the general area within Woodland Park. The areas in the UR zone district are intended to provide single-family housing in order to provide infill development. Areas in Woodland Park with the CBD district are intended for commercial activity that can be accessed by pedestrians, and density is considered very high in the CBD zone district. Here on this slide is the city zoning map with the subject property outlined in red. The surrounding properties are either in blue, all of which are zoned CBD, or yellow, zoned UR. The current uses of the subject property and the surrounding properties have been labeled on this map. I would just like to point out that there are several CBD zone parcels that contain single family homes and are being used as such. Here on the next few slides, we have some photos of the subject property as well as surrounding properties. This photo is of the subject property taken from Pikes Peak Avenue facing south. This photo is right across Pikes Peak Avenue from the previous slide, but facing north. On the left-hand side of the photo is a single-family residence, and on the right-hand side is the Human Bean, which is the coffee shop there. Both of these parcels are zoned Central Business District. This photo is taken from the intersection of Pikes Peak Avenue and Willow Street. This photo is of the subject property facing southeast. Again, this photo is looking in the opposite direction of the last, looking northwest, which is a single family residence zoned UR. So, okay, I apologize, CBD. This photo is taken from Willow Street, looking at the subject property facing east. And lastly, this photo is also taken on Willow Street looking west and is right across the street from the subject property. And this single family home is zoned urban residential. At the City Council meeting on December 4th, 2025, City Council decided to exercise their authority under City Charter Section 15.7A, which is here on the slide, and voted to initiate a zone district change for the subject property to change the zoning from Central Business District to urban residential. The application was referred to the entities on this slide, and staff did not receive any comments. Zone district change requests are analyzed in accordance with the questions within the next few slides. The first being, is the request being in line with the comprehensive master plan map? The future land use map provides guidance for rezoning as well as other requests and redevelopment proposals. The land designation of each area is based on what is currently in place and what the community would like to see more of. The two relevant land use designations that should be considered in reviewing the proposal are single family as well as downtown mixed use, and those designations are listed here on this slide. The figure on the left-hand side of this slide is a snapshot of the 2022 Comprehensive Master Plan Future Land Use Map. On the right-hand side of the slide, you will see another snapshot of the zoning map. The subject property is outlined in red and labeled with the number 4 on both maps. The subject property is designated as single family on the future land use map. Placing these maps side by side allows a comparison between the desired future use and the current zoning. The parcels numbered 1 through 5 on the maps identify parcels where the current zoning or the current uses do not conform with either the current zoning, the desired future land use, or both. Per the Teller County Assessor, all 5 properties are being used as single-family residences. Properties 1 through 3 are north of the subject property, while property number 5 on the screen is south. And on the next slide are pictures of the residential structures on each of the identified properties. The pictures on this slide, like I said, correspond with the previous slide. Properties 1 through 3 are zoned CBD and are within the areas identified as the downtown mixed use on the future land use map. While the desired future use and current zoning designations align, the residential use of the properties does not conform to the purposes of the CBD zone district. The residential use on properties 4 and 5 conform to the single family residential use identified on the future land use map, but does not conform to the purposes of the CBD zone. The comprehensive plan's future land use map advises the subject property should be used and zoned as single-family residential. Is the proposed zoning consistent with the comprehensive plan objectives? This rezoning is supported with the provisions listed here on the slide from our housing, land use and growth, and economic development sections of the plan. Number 3 is what has changed in the surrounding properties that warrant a zone change. The properties to the east that front Highway 24 have been used commercial purposes for at least 50 years. The single-family homes that surround the subject property have also been in existence for at least 50 years, with the area having a residential zone designation. There are homes that date back to the 1930s, and the area has been infilled with other single-family residences since then. Ordinance 1469, Series 2023, which established where a short-term rental units may be permitted, notes that the citizens' desire to maintain the character of its residential neighborhoods, which enhances the quality of life for its residents, protects public peace, welfare, health, safety, and preserves housing stock for residential use. In October of 2025, Council approved a rezoning request to change the designations from its original UR to the Central Business District. In reviewing the current area uses and how they have remained stable for decades, it is possible to conclude that the potential uses afforded by the CBD zone district designation are not appropriate for this property and should be returned back to the previous UR zone designation. Describe the appropriateness of the UR at this location. The subject property is currently within the CBD zone, but does border land to the west and south that is zoned UR. Prior to October 2nd, 2025, the property previously had residential zoning designations. When considering a zone change, all potential uses allowed within the zone should be reviewed, since any of them could potentially be established on the land within the designated area. In reviewing the current area uses, it is possible to conclude that the current uses of the surrounding properties do not support the CBD zone district for the property and should be returned to the more appropriate previously zoned UR zone designation. Number 5 is the ability to serve the maximum density with the wastewater treatment capacity. So the existing single-family dwelling is connected to city wastewater system and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. And lastly, here is the ability to serve the maximum density with the planned water resources. Just like the wastewater resources, it is connected to the city municipal water system and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Adjacent property owners within 150 feet were mailed a letter notifying them of the council-initiated zone change, as well as the meeting dates, including the scheduled planning commission and city council public hearings. The site was posted with public notice posters, and the notice of the public hearings was published to the Pikes Peak Courier in compliance with municipal code, and staff has received no public comment on the proposal. And here on this slide, Planning Commission is a recommendation of sorts, but we kind of have 2 options for you. So the top option here, should the Planning Commission find that urban residential is the more appropriate zone designation for the subject property, the Commission should recommend City Council approve the zone district change from Central Business District to urban residential. The one on the bottom of the screen here is the opposite of that. So should the Planning Commission find the Central Business District is more appropriate zone designation of the subject property, the Commission should recommend City Council retain the current CBD zone designation. Please let us know if you guys have any questions. Thanks.
Big question, CJ. We had this issue back in October, I believe, early part of October.
Correct.
What's changed?
What's changed? So let's go
Why
back.
should we change our decision? What factors have we not considered that we should have considered? And why should our previous decision be changed?
First and foremost, as staff, we can't tell you, we're just here to present the facts. right?
So what facts have changed?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I think what we talked about in the presentation with the ordinance 1469 in 2023 with the short-term rentals.
But that still was in effect when we voted on this last time.
That's correct. That's correct.
Any other changes?
Since you last heard it,
Yes.
Well, we had the working session together with city council.
So, well, let me kind of dive in here a little bit. So this staff report, I think, gives you guys a little bit deeper dive and maybe calls out a little more specifically what's going on in and around the area. And whenever a property's on the edge like this,
So you're saying we made a mistake?
no, I'm not. I'm saying that the property's on the edge. It is challenging to make a decision. And the comprehensive plan does provide guidance.
Guidance, yes.
And as a planner, I was trained to rely fairly heavily on the plan and what it proposes. Woodland Park has been a little bit different for me since quite often it is talked about as this plan is aspirational. So that's why you still have a split recommendation. That is the same as what you had seen previously. There's policies that can support the UR zone district. There's uses that can support that. There's also that larger question is the area changing significantly enough where you maybe want to encourage more businesses in this area? It's not an easy decision. I do not envy you. And council did ask to have this back in front of them. And so the way you get there is they initiated the zone change and it has to come back through you guys. So you guys can come to the same conclusion you did 3 months ago, or you may not. Either option is going to city council again. So that's just where we are.
Maybe before we get into those deeper issues, I'd be very curious to have a little more history on lot number, what was labeled number 5 on that
Yeah,
map.
that was gonna be one of my questions.
Basically, I'll just give both my questions now so you can kind of address it holistically. I was curious how it became CBD. It wasn't that way on the comprehensive plan. I don't know if it was always that way or if it became that way.
I could give history of that.
Oh, okay. And then very much related to that, I'm curious, I understand the council's desire not to have zone creep. So I'm a little unclear why we're only addressing this single lot and maybe also lot 5 or there may be other lots all the way around the fringe of CBD and other zones. So with that as my question.
Council only initiated a zone change for this particular lot. They did not talk about any other lots in that the decision they made to initiate the zone change. It was in 2005 when the property to the south, number 5, was changed to Central Business District. And the ordinance, I believe it's either the ordinance or the staff report associated with that at that time, talked about the desire to do that was to allow a design business to operate there. That was specifically what was called out as part of that proposal based on our records. So, and then I also want to go back to the future land use map and the comprehensive plan. That was developed using a fairly conservative approach. And it is included in the comp plan where it says the land use designation for each area is based on what is currently in place, what the community would like to see more of, and identification of harmonious uses that do not infringe on the existing land uses. So quite often you see when you look at that map where it does coincide with the zoning map. That number 5 property is a little bit different. Why it doesn't, I don't know. I wasn't here during the development of that map. I don't know if it was something that was overlooked or if that was a deliberate decision that no, this probably, it looks like a house, probably should be more like a house like the other ones around it. I don't know. Again, it's a tricky area. It's not easy decision, but we're just bringing you the facts and you guys can kind of settle whichever direction you feel more comfortable with what recommendation you would like to take to city council.
Somewhere back in my fuzzy memories of October, wasn't property number 5 owned by the applicants?
Correct. So they can speak on that as well because they owned it back in 2005 and got it rezoned. So if you have specific questions regarding that rezoning, they're a great resource.
I just wanted to make sure my
Sure.
memory was right.
Yep.
So CJ, you mentioned properties 1 through 5. I guess we got them on the screen here. Which of those properties currently have short-term rentals or did? Or have been used as short-term rentals?
From our, just number 4 on the screen. From my recollection, which is the subject property.
Which I know is incorrect because I know number 5 has been used as a short-term rental also. And okay. Anyway, that is a rental, okay. So the big issue for the zoning change was the short-term rental issue. And that 4 had been used as short-term rental for a number of years. And the only allowable zoning for that is because the pocket zoning was the adjacent CBD. And so, I mean, that's the whole issue really, is that council made the change for short-term rentals. And the only option to continue that business, continue the history that's been used there, was to go to short CBD. I could give information on property 5 because I was involved in that project when it was rezoned. It was proposed as a design business. An architect interior design office was designed for that property. And so in preparation of submitting for building permit, the zoning was changed to allow for that. Economic downturns didn't allow for that project to come forward, and the zoning was still in place.
Jared, any questions? He's not.
I have another one. 1, 2, and 3 are currently central business district.
Correct.
Were they always zoned that and they allowed a resident to be built on it, or how did that come about? Because most of those homes are older, except for number 3.
I looked at that during the development of this staff report you have in front of you. There's a number of properties that were built in the 70s in that area.
3 was extensively remodeled.
I could tell you.
When
in a
did
minute.
CBD come into existence?
What was the question, Don?
When did CBD come into existence?
The downtown has probably had a downtown designation for a very long time. I don't have a date for that. So. Give me just a minute.
CJ, did Nina have a comment?
No, that since she spoke last, her name's just up there, so I apologize. I haven't quite outwitted the Zoom system back there, so.
It was winning on us earlier today.
Within the central business district in the code, under permitted uses, which is 18.23.010, it labels an ordinance 692, series 1996. So that's a good indication of when that zone district came into effect.
Okay, should we move on to public comment? We have an opportunity for additional questions.
Hang on for a minute here. I can get you those other dates you were questioning. Maybe if the system complies. Thank you for your patience.
If we want to go backwards, number 3 on the list, which was the one adjacent to the human being, was 1976 is when that was built. Number 2 was 1948. And number 1 was 1932. So
And you said the central business district looks like 69,
96.
96.
It might have even been before that, because the city did have some zoning before that.
Right.
That was probably the most recent establishment of that, so.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, way back when these they're part of 2 original plats. They actually were a part of El Paso County at the time. So that's where that R1 designation kind of came in. So
And then real quickly, CJ, when was property number 5 built? I think it's also from the 30s.
So yeah, that was 306 Chester Ave, and that was 1935.
And the subject property we said was 29.
The subject property was built in 1929.
Okay, well, let me move on to public comment. We hear from the property owner first. If you have a presentation, go ahead, and then questions from the commission. You'd like-
I'm going to have you start at page.
If you give your name and address before you speak, please.
Hi, I'm Beth or Elizabeth Horitz, and we are at 309 Willow Street or 306 Chester Avenue.
Sure.
I'm going to just, no, that's okay. I'm just going to have you pull up your presentation at least to page 3, and then if you can help me flip through it. Thank you.
Rob, I definitely need a copy of that for the record.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that, and it's not anything you have to look at now. I'll just talk about it briefly. So for the past 20 years, we've owned property, lived, owned a business, shopped, dined, donated here in the city of Woodland Park. Even with my husband in the military, we have always been connected here throughout our 20 years. One thing we just found out about this hearing a week ago upon returning from holiday travel, I'll have to tell you guys it was super disappointing because we've been super connected by email, phone, whatever, with city or P&Z staff during the whole process since we started this in March. And so to not have been notified about that work session that very specifically referenced our address when scheduling it, again, I just think the staff's better than that. And I think you guys could work at excelling in that communication to include property owners. Again, we've owned and rented Willow since 2006. 18 years ago or 20 years ago, 2005, the planning and zoning vision for our whole city block was that our block would be zoned central business district. We were the gateway to the new downtown development where the Woodland Saddle Club was going to be building their main area and headquarters. Ken Hartsfield is super familiar with that because he was the architect of record while the Saddle Club was developing their property. We worked super closely with Sally Riley to rezone 306 Chester Avenue in our block to CBD. We vacated, if you can pull up that first map you had, we vacated all of our alleyways. The abandoned lot that is shown currently in yellow, that is in the center, that center square that floats in the island of our block, that was obtained by Carter, who owns all the Highway 24 frontage. It may be shown in yellow, but at some point he would certainly combine that, which would make sense with all of his CBD properties or his trust. We also surveyed and pursued rezoning 309 Willow at that time. So she walked me through all of that because we were planning to rezone it, but that required us to put in the road at Pikes Peak that didn't exist at that time. And that because you had mentioned the economic hard times of 2008 just became too cost prohibitive for us. Dan Taylor and the Human Bean Coffee Shop were the ones who paid and put that road in just as recently as 2019. I also want to state here in this hearing that I believe my short-term rental permit has been delayed, denied, and impacted by this rezoning process. I shared a timeline with you guys, not that you have to look at it at all now, but I want you guys to just see what I've gone through and how we've gotten to this point. It's been a very frustrating lack of guidance and communication since getting the rezoning. I have reached out over 9 times begging, pleading for help on this, and I'm still actively advocating for our short-term rental permit. In closing, when you look at the Woodland Park rezoning map, it has not honestly changed much for us in the past 20 years. But as a general rule, almost all the city blocks that are aligned with the Highway 24 frontage, the block in its entirety is almost always zoned commercial. And so that makes sense that 309 Willow would also be zoned commercial. The presentation, if you go to the sheet where you're showing the Willow property from the front, please. What you guys are failing to show in this presentation is that, directly behind us, we've got the Peak Fly Shop, we've got the Celestial Tattoo Parlor, the Plant and Fern Shop, and then the storage unit. So I'd love when this does go to City Council that we see those all CBD zoned properties, all 4 of them that our properties touch in that presentation. I have talked to several of my CDB neighbors. They have very strong opinions about this not changing, but they're terrified to come in here because they don't want to be targeted like our property was singled out. So I know they have concerns. I've met with them personally, but they don't want to get on anyone's radar. So that's, I get it. I would be the same way. So I highly ask the PZ staff members to not recommend a forced a zoning change that we're aware has never been done or initiated by the city council, especially in the tenure of the recent planning director. Thank you.
Hello, Robert Hortz, 309 Willow Street. Is it possible to pull up the zoning map as well as the future plan map? The one pictures that you show in the presentation show a tiny little postage stamp. And what Beth had alluded to was the fact that when you do look along Highway 24, which is the center of everything commercial in this town, if you look east, west, north, south, whatever the direction is on Highway 24, it is predominantly block after block after block, fully zoned the same. No, it's okay. And to reiterate a little bit more on that, where the break is actually at the road. So if you,
I'm sorry, you asked for which map?
the planning mode, the zoning map, the actual one, and then that future map.
Okay.
You can do the either. Just do the zoning map. The current zoning map will be great.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. And I guess I'll keep talking while we're pulling this up. Anyways, when you do look at this map, be cognizant that when you look along Highway 24, it is nearly the same on every direction. Sometimes it ebbs a little bit more, sometimes it ebbs a little bit less. So you can see Highway 24. And like I said, my point is that if you look, every one of those blocks is the same color, unless it's divided by a road. Some of them have 2 blocks past Highway 24. Some of them are just single. Some of them actually have 3. But that is the actual definitive zone. It's where Highway 24 is the epicenter. You guys see what I'm saying, right? Okay, now if you want to go to the futures, because I believe this is an oversight. The future plan, and like I said, it is a plan. It's a guide. And there could be mistakes perhaps on this, because Our property at 309 Willow is literally one property behind Highway 24. One property. It is the property next to the property next to Highway 24. And if you can zone in on the future, you already said that it has a residential use. And I would argue that that actually doesn't make sense because that's a miscombobulated block at that point. The more natural division should be on Willow Street. And that actually would make sense with the houses that are further to the north. As far as I've heard some arguments about it's not being used as commercial. I can tell you that both 309 Willow, which is being targeted, has an application in for a short-term rental, which is deemed commercial use. 306 Chester, it's our other one. I guess you'll be coming for us next on that one. Also, an application in for a short-term rental, non-primary, requiring commercial zoning. That workshop, I watched it several times. In that workshop, I felt like there was a lot of fear generated by what I would say a little bit dramatic talk. The word monkey, grease monkey. The word grease monkey was used so much that my phone literally started sending me ads for grease monkey. Point being is that when you look at the zones of what would be most appropriate for downtown, and CJ, I gotta tell you, in your presentation, you did discuss CBD and you said it was like a whatever, but you kind of missed one of the biggest points. Residential activity is appropriate in CBD. There was a lot of talk about a transition. CBD is the transition, and CBD is not the most lenient zoning, to which some of the council members believe it is, because CBD zoning is both residential and commercial use all in the same area. There are several more restrictions on CBD than there are on NC. With that said, there are some NC restrictions that are a little bit more stringent than CBD. One is being frontage and your backdrop from the front road. So in CBD, 10 feet, not much. In the NC, it's 25 foot. But if you look at the sides, CBD actually has a higher side distance than NC and residential, especially when it's bordering other residential property. Let's see here. All right, so let me get on with this. I had something, I just had to hit those real quick. Me and Beth, we own that property at 309 Willow. I do appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight regarding the city council initiated proposal to rezone our property from central business district to urban residential. While I understand the importance of zoning decisions in shaping the future of Woodland Park, I must respectfully oppose this rezoning proposal. I believe it represents an unnecessary and potentially harmful reversal of the city's recent decisions, and I urge you to consider the broader implications for fairness, trust in government, and the city's economic vitality. Our property has been in our family since 2006, when I was still on active duty. I'm a military retired combat pilot and currently fly for FedEx. I'm a highly trusted individual with lots of responsibilities and conduct myself with the highest integrity. In the 20 years that we've owned that home at 309 Willow, we have operated it both as a long-term and a short-term rental. We have never, not one time, had a complaint during this entire time while hosting the many of guests who have come to enjoy the beautiful scenery of Woodland Park and the surrounding areas. Historically, this property was zoned urban residential until we applied for a zoning change to CBD in July 25 to continue to operate as a non-primary short-term rental. The request aligned the CBD's purpose under Chapter 1823 of the Municipal Code, which encourages mixed-use activities to support a vibrant, pedestrian-friendly downtown. This change was in response to the passing of Ordinance Number 1472, Series 2024, which prohibited non-primary STRs in residential zoning. Although this action was meant to be fair, The reality is that this ordinance decimated nearly all STRs. Because of our proximity to CBD, i.e. on it, Planning and Zoning Commission recommended the change from UR to CBD by a 5-1 vote, and City Council subsequently unanimously approved the rezoning on October 2nd, 2025 through ordinance number 1503, 2025 after a thorough review process, unanimously, 5-1, unanimous. Question is, does this support the master comprehensive plan? Of course it does. When you guys briefed it last time, we talked about it. Economic development objectives 1.6 and 1.7 are supported by an increase in the desirability of Woodland Park through the expansion of tourism. This is where I disagree with you a little bit. I'm gonna explain myself. Housing objective 1.1, which you said doesn't support that. It is supported by promoting stable and safe neighborhoods, especially for neighbors whose homes have been affected by flood, fire, and sewage and need a temporary place to stay. We have hosted those folks, and it has offered them a place to stay instead of the county little hotel. CBD is the best solution for this property, hands down. There is now a severe shortage of STRs, and this is the perfect location in the heart of downtown, allowing guests to explore by foot. Commercial zoning is now required for STRs, and CBD is the only choice that actually references mixed residential and commercial use and is the most appropriate, especially considering the location adjacency to other CBD property right behind it, and all the CBD property to the north, and the fact that our block is nearly all CBD. And like I said before, CBD is because it is mixed use, it's actually more restrictive in so many ways than NC. And I wish I beg you guys to really look at that and push that, because council was in a totally different mindset. The use of an STR is an excellent transition from Highway 24 frontage road, CBD property, to residential properties on the next block. It's a natural flow. During the latest joint work session, there was much conversation about this property becoming a gas station or grease monkey, both of which are conditional for CBD. These potential issues of undesirable uses were addressed before. And by planning and zoning, who concluded that they had the reasonable power to use current tools through business permits and site plans to protect neighbors as required. Additionally, there's noise, nuisance, lighting ordinance all in place and address the proximity of CBD to UR and place restrictions. If the property owner fails to follow ordinances, that's the time to revoke permits, and if necessary, make zoning changes. This concept of the city initiating a zoning change against the will of a property owner without sufficient reason is unprecedented. As this home butts up directly against CBD property, UR is not the preferred option when looking at the current and future zoning maps. CBD is clearly the more correct choice. And furthermore, the choice of the property owner, and furthermore, the choice we actually went through and had a long, deliberate engagement and discussion and to make that happen in the CBD. This action by council, even when I look at the workshop, I cannot bridge the gap between how that meeting concluded on November 20th and 2 weeks later, they initiate a zoning change. That wasn't in that workshop at all. Crazily bewildered, blindsided, shocked. Okay, so we'll give you a little bit more. I'm not a legal expert.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
You've gone on quite a while to let on because you're the property owner, but could you focus a little in the last few points and finish up?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna knock out this real fast as I can. I think this is important. This is some regulatory stuff that I think is relevant to the situation. There's a thing called regulatory takings. The proposed rezoning could also be viewed as a regulatory taking under the Fifth Amendment as applies to states via the 14th Amendment. Regulatory takings occur when government actions deprive owners of economically viable use or frustrate reasonable investment-backed expectations. Due process. The process leading to the zoning proposal raises questions about the procedural fairness. Zoning changes should be transparent, not arbitrary and provide affected parties with adequate notice and opportunity to be heard. Beth already mentioned how we weren't notified of anything. Literally, this week was the first time we got an email. Selective enforcement. The city's action could be perceived as selective enforcement or targeted harassment, while other very similar CBD properties, which we counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're allowed to continue to operate without issue. Why has our property been singled out for rezoning? This unequal treatment erodes public confidence in the fairness of municipal government. Beyond the legal concerns, I urge the commission to consider the broader implications of the unprecedented council-initiated rezoning proposal for Woodland Park's future. By just taking this initiative, City Council has already caused damage by escalating fear and suspicion in the stability and fairness in the zoning procedures. They can attack me. Anybody could be next. Let's not go down this road. In conclusion, I respectfully ask the commission to recommend against this rezoning proposal. While these legal arguments against rezoning may not be definitive, the inherent fairness and broader implications for Woodland Park's economic and civic development should not be ignored. Thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you for the extra time.
Okay, before you sit down, did someone have some questions that the property owners needed to address? Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here who would like to make a public comment? Sure. Okay, if you give your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. Jay Knight, 50 Old Wagon Road. I'm a renter at one of their properties. As far as Beth and Rob are concerned and any of their character, if I can just speak on it, it should be unapproachable in the matter of I've seen them in multiple different facets of business dealings, and they've always been above board. The integrity that they carry with them in any matter is very sought after. I mean, as a business owner, also I pay taxes in this county. I'm also licensed with the city. I'm bonded in the state, I'm bonded in the county, and I've dealt with a lot of different municipalities here in Teller County and Woodland Park. A lot of the people are, a lot of the city workers and people I've been involved with here in the business and the Teller County business. It's been interesting to see this all play out. I have a few questions, but I just like to speak on the fact that Rob and Beth have been very transparent in all their dealings. Like, they've approached everything by the book. They've paid the licensing and the applications to the city, and it seems like now everything is being reversed in their matters. And I just had a couple of questions as far as the master comprehensive plan. Does it promote growth? Is that something you guys see as a matter within the city that you want to see the city grow?
This is a.
Go ahead. You can pose
No.
questions.
Oh,
for
so
us
you
to
guys,
discuss,
you can
but-
pose questions, but you don't have to answer. Okay. I personally feel that the CBD zoning for their properties is the more appropriate approach if you guys were approaching it with a growth mindset. It's all bordering on the CBD zoning and not so much the residential. And I was also just asking a question I'd like to pose for you guys, if you'll answer it later on in this meeting, is can you define a quasi judicial matter? And I think that was all I really had to ask and say in this meeting. So I appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you. CJ, do we have anyone else online for public comment?
I'm not clear who they are based on how they're listed, but I just I'll set it up so they should be able to speak.
If you could link with them and we'll get a clear name and address when they speak.
So PMA Hone, PMA HONE.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to figure out my audio. Yes. My name is Pat Mahone. I am a resident in Teller County up in Ranch Estates. I've visited this property many times. I've visited many of the businesses, all surrounding this property several times. I am also one of those who visited this property and definitely spent money at all of the commercial businesses that you can walk to from there. So anyway, but my concern is that this looks a lot like what's going on in New York City in collectivism. And this is taking property rights, and I'm very discouraged that this is happening in the city, and I'm concerned that it may venture out into the county. So I just wanted to make my opinion known for the record.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Is there anyone else online with their hand raised?
Not yet. So hopefully folks online can hear. Anybody else who would like to speak, please raise your hand. No one's raising their hands.
Seeing none and be no one else, we close the public hearing and bring it for commission discuss. Before commission discussion, Karen, there was a question asked, what is a QJ matter? Could you briefly explain that to the?
Quasi judicial matter is when a board on behalf of the city is conducting a public hearing. It can be the planning commission, city council. We've got other boards that potentially can hold public hearings, but they sit in that quasi judicial manner where they act as a judge to make a decision, or in this case, a recommendation around the matter that's in front of them. So it's typically where they are applying rules and regulations to a specific property. So that's the QJ. Unless, and the attorney's not jumping in, so I probably did okay with that.
I think you did.
Yes, good job. It's it's opposed to a legislative where you are voting on enacting laws. Here you're applying the codes that are already into effect on a specific property, similar to a judge. That's why it's called quasi kind of judicial.
That's the part I left out. Thank you, Nina.
Okay, anyone like to kick it off?
Well, I was surprised when, I got the agenda and saw this was back on there. So having attended the work session and just trying to remember all the discussion back in October, I think one of the biggest things we were trying to either prevent or not set a precedent for was spot zoning. We don't want to see that. And I mean, if you look at the map, I don't see this as spot zoning, so I don't understand why it was coming back to us again. To me, I don't think I would change what we voted on in October. I don't see any compelling reason brought forth by city council or how we came to our decision last time as to why we would change the decision again.
And I would just tweaking that just a slight bit, but I really come to the same general conclusion. Not necessarily spot zoning, but more like zoning creep.
Right.
One property here, one property there. Which I guess leads me to my biggest critique of this particular action. It feels like the same thing in reverse. So I could definitely support if it were part of a larger, holistically applied change in philosophy Or maybe we feel like the zoning has gotten out of balance for the needs of the city and apply it across, a spectrum of properties. Picking them off one at a time, whether it's to zone them or unzone them. I felt that that's what, in my mind from the work session, that's what we were trying to prevent. And it feels like in a sort of a inverse sort of way, we're doing the same thing. And the apparent lack of consistency of the city and how it interacts with the residents and businesses, that concerns me as well. It's always critical that the city, if you want investment, you have to be a good, trusted, consistent partner. And so for those two reasons, I'm not supportive of the change.
Question, Karen. This was initiated by council. They approved the zoning change unanimously originally. What was the vote to instigate this?
I do not recall. I'm sorry, I don't have that.
Was it unanimous or?
I just don't recall.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Robert Hortz, probably, like I said, I watched that video a million times. 6-0, 6-0. 6-0 was the council's vote to reopen this. I was blown away.
Thank you.
Don, do you have any questions, comments?
Each one of these that we hear have to stand on its own merits for that situation. And I really don't see a reason to undo what we approved and sent forward to the council the first time either. I mean, they went through the process. We all heard it. We made a decision. Council ratified that decision by approving the ordinance or by approving the zone change. I don't see anything that's changed radically since then.
I have a quick clarifying. I'm looking at the figure 6. I think it's the zoning map. The 4, it looks like, property number 4 and property number 5. I mean, obviously those have structures on them.
You want to know what's in between them, right?
Yeah, the 4
So
little
do I.
tiny things.
Especially that one that looks like it has no access.
That's a
Yeah.
vacant area.
What's on those? I mean,
The center vacant square was unclaimed property and then was claimed by Carter over 20 years ago. The other yellow is one single family residence property owned by an individual. The
but is
other-
it 3 lots?
It might,
Three
it
separate
might
lots?
be, I think he's got a cabin, ADU and a garage.
The assessor's office shows it as 3 parcels in there.
3 parcels.
My thoughts on this are, who does it serve to make the change? And it seems like it's to serve a future potential purpose, that they want something for a residential, for something for the future. For somebody who's not the property owner, who's not currently here, who's not involved in this decision. And we're ignoring the existing property owner if we make this change for somebody else as purpose that isn't here. And to me, that seems inappropriate.
Yeah.
So I'm much more aligned to address the current property owner's request like we did in October. That seems like an appropriate use of the property in that area of the town. It fits with the surrounding properties and the way they're zoned. It doesn't change anything, actually. It just maintains what we had before the last ordinance went in that affected this negatively. Property value would have gone down because it's no longer usable, so forth and so on. So I think we made the right decision. I think I want to stand by that decision. It seems appropriate to address this particular property owner's request the way it was sent in initially.
I'll get a few comments. I'm quite disappointed in our council in changing their minds. We presented a case to them. They had the chance to evaluate it. I don't understand why they voted unanimously for it and then decided unanimously against it without any change of circumstances. I'm also insulted that they sent it back to us. After we went through this, we decided, we made a recommendations, nothing's changed. And asking us to reconsider our vote, if we change our vote, I feel lose our integrity. So I don't support the change of zoning.
Could I ask CJ if you bring up the last page of your presentation, which had really presented the room for recommendations? Understand, I'm in a special spot on this too. What was it, 6 and what was it, 11 to 1? There's one, the one was me. And I had my view was that for a variety of reasons, particular uses and such, but also a lot of it setback and such. I didn't think the property was appropriate for CBD. I granted that some sorts of commercial uses might be appropriate. We didn't really have a zone for it. I talked about neighborhood commercial. It was suggested that that would be wrongful as spot zoning. In any event, I did not feel the CBD was the appropriate zoning for it. And maybe we don't have the right zoning for it. And as the work session was talked about following our decisions, that suggested I thought the council was interested in considering some transitional zoning opportunities we looked at in an organized fashion to look at what those would be. Important for me in deciding where to go today was to look at the wording as it's presented here. Question is, should the planning commission find that UR is a more appropriate zone for the subject property, or that CBD is a more appropriate zone? Everyone's repeatedly pointed out there's not a lot changed. I thought urban residential was more appropriate than CBD last time, but I also don't think much of changing in a matter of weeks from going from one to the other. So I guess what's turned me is the answer is one answer, urban residential was the right answer, I believe, until transitional opportunity can be developed. But given the situation, the change we make, I believe it's more appropriate to be CBD because it's already CBD and was moved there. So it's a little different analysis, but I come out where I think the group is. And I don't mean to end discussion, people have more discussion.
Well, I was gonna say, I was a little disappointed in the fact that they approved it, council approved it. We had our work session, we discussed the transition, and the agreement was we'd come back and readdress it after we get the uniform code taken care of. And then they come back the next week.
I imagine the thought was leave it back the way it was and facilitate moving to something else. But there's people with real properties and real economic interests and such too, is that going back and forth in a matter of weeks just doesn't seem fair.
And it just seemed like the council was waffling a lot. So,
well, to me, the whole point of the transitional zoning is that, we had a vote and the STRs are now not allowed except for in CBD. But I mean, you look at where people can go and stay for a short amount of time within the city, and it's got a couple of hotels, but they're farther away than these homes are for walking distance to all the commercial stuff.
oh yeah.
So there should be some, short-term rentals at some point. So for me, I'm more in the vein of leave it like it is now, allow them to continue to operate as they have been, and then we unravel all this traditional or transitional zoning after.
Right, which is where I thought we were headed after that work session.
I think we've sort of exhausted new ideas and things here. Does someone want to take the wording from that and decide what the commission should recommend, retention of the CBD zone or recommend appropriate designation? Anyone would like to try and word?
Is it fine just to recommend that?
I'm sorry, say that.
Is it fine just to recommend that this not be approved? Can it be that simple?
No, that wasn't, well, the question, that's why I asked to bring it up. It wasn't because we're not approving or not approving. I think our issue is,
We need to make a motion to recommend
Right.
a course of action for the city council.
Right. I would recommend that they not approve the proposal.
Which. would be
Okay, you
more
gotta,
of a second
I need you to be considerably more specific.
Let me go ahead and.
It sounds like,
Motion.
it sounds like you're looking at the second option, so it's written out there for you.
Yeah. So I recommend, I make a motion that we recommend to the city council that the central business district be maintained for this property and at Lot 1, Block 12, Foster's Edition, including the adjacent west half of the vacated South Avenue as described at reception number 483, and the adjacent north one half of vacated alley as described at reception number 590996 of Woodland Park, Teller County, aka 309 Willow Street, Woodland Park, Colorado.
I'll second it.
discussion of the motion.
And that was a second by Ken Hartsfield.
No.
No, it was Don
Don
DeZello.
DeZello.
I'm sorry.
I was down to.
Just to pick at this, normally we recommend the city council approve or not approve. And that's, neither of those words are in this recommended text. So I think to make it perfectly clear that what we're recommending should be that they do not approve.
Your wording was written, was it to recommend the city council retain? Is that
Yeah.
your word?
I
Retain
think
the
retain
CBD
is the
zone.
better word.
Yep.
That's the motion. Do you want to?
I think the intent of what you're telling them is clear.
Yes, I
So
just,
I think you're okay.
fair enough.
There being nothing else, can you call a vote?
Ken Kennedy,
Yes.
Jared Newcomb,
Yes.
Chair Brown,
Yes.
Don DeZellem,
Yes.
Ken Hartsfield,
Yes.
Don Hoyne.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 to recommend to city council that the central business district zoning be maintained for the subject property.
Okay.
Best of luck with your next meeting.
The only other thing I would like to note on this is that the city council public hearing is scheduled for Thursday, February 19th, 2026 at 6 PM in this room,
6 PM.
6 PM.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for appearing tonight. Next item is reports.
So the big one is with regard to our Unified Development Code update project. We went through a month-long public review period. We did not have a large volume of people reviewing and making comment, but the folks who did review dove in nice and deep for you. So it's definitely a case of quality in-depth review over quantity. So it's, I think, helpful to have other folks who are very similar to you guys in terms of a huge attention to detail, really looking at things, what's going on, what shifted, what didn't, those kinds of things. And so Jen and I did go through every single one of those comments, and I think it was about 250-ish, over the course of those 7 chapters. And we actually started that last week already and then wrapped it up yesterday, because we needed to get the document posted on the city website. So it is publicly available, and notice that this is the document that Planning Commission will be conducting their public hearing on the 22nd of January, so later this month. That is a legislative item, since we're making new law or revising the law, or this basic more nuanced, the structure of the current laws is what's being reorganized. So all 7 of those chapters are posted and readily available for folks to take a look at. We will be sending you guys a staff report, but you're welcome to dive in and look at that. So there's things that did get finessed based on some of the comments we received. There were a couple of things that we backed out of what you guys had looked at previously. An example of that would be like the alternative energy uses in the use table. We got a little pushback going, hey, was this really fully vetted? did you guys actually sit down with all of city council? How was this looked at? And since the focus of this project really is to restructure what we've got, so it's a more useful document, we just yank that back out of there and put it on the list of topics that potentially need a more in-depth review and development for later addition to the code. Because right now the goal really is to get a functional document adopted and in place. So the chair has been very adamant looking for a more detailed type of summary around what changed, what didn't. We're working on that, on the home stretch of finalizing that. And we'll get that posted on the website probably early next week. It'll also be part of what goes out to you guys with your packet for that meeting. Those were kind of the big points I wanted to emphasize in front of you guys this evening. It's pretty solid at this point. It's looking good. It's a great evolution for Woodland Park in terms of functional regulations that are much easier for folks to navigate than our current scavenger hunt that we have. So that's where we are. The public notices have been done for that. I don't know what type of public comment we'll get. For that particular hearing, when we are going through things, there may be specific provisions that you're wanting to revise, hopefully not too many, since you guys have looked at this and obsessed over it for 3 years now. But if there is something, we're going to need to be pretty careful about how we tackle that in terms of picking things off, being very careful with motions, dealing with things distinctly. And it is common to for staff to kind of keep a list of like what are the items. So at the end of all this, you say, hey, we recommend, council adopt this with this list of revisions or changes. So
just to understand and checking if this makes sense, then is going through as issues arise rather than trying to have separate motions on them. Might we have sort of straw polls among the commission on that sounds right this way or that way? The staff keeps a listing of it.
At this point, you really shouldn't be wordsmithing anything. No, seriously, you really shouldn't. It's very well finessed at this point. So it's more a case of, this provision should be removed or we keep. But hopefully even then there's not too much of that because it's been through a legal review. It's had the public opportunity to take a look at. It's pretty well baked. The other thing that can happen is this gets adopted and that first year of like working with it and stuff, we may identify provisions that need to be cleaned up or further finessed. So it's not uncommon to have an ordinance the subsequent year that says, hey, this addresses this or this accidentally had gotten lost. Not a lot of that happens, but it's also not uncommon to have like a cleanup ordinance afterwards. So we really need to get this moving forward to city council. So that is the goal. You've got 7 chapters online to take a look at. Hopefully you're pleased with where we have settled because it has been a lot of work by you guys, a lot of hours by this group of folks sitting in this room. And it's a pretty solid document. It's a great place for us to be. So hopefully you will feel that level of confidence when you take a look at what's there.
Is the reason this going through us is just because it has so much to do with zoning? That's the main reason? Because
I'm
you can
pretty sure
have,
it's by state law that this group does a public hearing to review and make recommendation on those regulations that city council ultimately adopts. I'm real sure it's state law.
because there's other ordinances that go from the lawyers right up to the council and they approve those, right, without us being involved.
Yeah, but planning and zoning subdivision regulations are some of those that go through you.
Okay.
Nina's popped on my screen and is nodding yes, so.
Yeah, so you always look, you always make recommendations as to any of the, like Karen said, zoning subdivision. Now it'll just be one place. That's in state law and that's also in your code. So,
Okay. That's
but
what I
obviously
thought.
you're
I
not
thought
going
it
to
was
make comments
specific
on
to
something
that
that has nothing to do with planning. That's not like your role, but
Yeah, so like a sales tax proposal or question, or not sales tax, that's probably not a great one. But, well, no, like junk nuisance violations or, ordinances related to that, that's a different section of the code. That would not get run in front of you guys if somebody was wanting to propose changes to that particular section of the city regulations. So that's what I wanted to let you know is we're finally bringing the baby home. So I said, hopefully, I really, really hope and pray you guys are very, very comfortable and feel good about all of your work and hours that you have invested in this project.
So to clarify, when will we officially review and make a recommendation on that?
Your public hearing on what is proposed is at your next meeting on January 22nd.
Okay. You said you're putting together a list of how you adjudicated the comments that you received.
No, we're putting together a list of substantive changes. We're not going into all of the comments. It's the substantive changes
All right.
between what's being proposed versus the current regulations.
When do you think you'll have that done?
I'm hoping for early next week because I got to get it out to you guys and,
Okay.
and post it. So.
All right, thanks.
And I'm sure we'll leave something off that list, but it's not because it's deliberate. It's because we've just been back and forth and so many teeny little things and it's
You're a little weary of it too, huh?
it's next to impossible to completely track. So we're giving it our best shot. The bigger question is what's being proposed? Is everybody comfortable with it? Does this get done what we need to do? Staff says yes. So that's all I had for you this evening. So thank you.
There being nothing else, meeting adjourned.